Welcome to BlizzCon 2018, brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
And new worlds into the game. And if you remember the early days of Heroes of the Storm, the first couple of maps were brand new worlds that had never existed before. So you had Raven Court and in King's Crest, and then you had Sky Temple and Tomb of the Spider Queen on Luxoria. But when it comes to the characters, we knew, and of course we wanted for ourselves, that the fantasy you have to bring first is bring all the badass characters from all the Blizzard universes together and put them in the same space. So we knew we needed Kerrigan and Arthas and Uther and Diablo and so forth. But we felt like, earlier this year, we finally brought Warcraft to the Nexus with Alterac Pass. We felt like, okay, we got Warcraft, we got all the main universes in here. Maybe it's time to finally bring our first brand new, not just the next hero to come into the Nexus, but born from the Nexus. And that's been really exciting for us. It's the first time that we've been able to give our development team, our designers, our artists, sound designers, just a blank canvas to just create anything they want. So we're hoping that the players are just as excited about playing her as excited as we were about working on her and making her.
All right, that's awesome. And, leading up to BlizzCon itself, we had the Fall of King's Crest event, and that kind of was introducing us a little bit more to, the Raven Lord and such. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about, like, her background, her connection to how it, ties into the rest of, like, this, the story of the Nexus itself.
Yeah, so the great thing is we have a fourth comic coming in a few weeks later this month, and it'll focus entirely on Orphea. So definitely check that out when that releases. You can get a lot more backstory there. But for Orphea, when we knew we were building this, brand new Nexus-born character, we, at the same time, I think we knew we needed to kind of bring her into the game through like these comics and this lore and start building up like the Dark Nexus and kind of what the conflict is with her father, the Raven Lord, right? And he's been kind of off like destroying other realms and conquering, and that's his personality, but that's not who Orphea is, right? She's much more, I think, even though she's like battle hardened, she's much more kindred, I would say. Like she's more youthful and just
sympathetic.
Kind of sympathetic, yeah. And she wants, she doesn't agree with her father's decisions, and so trying to kind of build that all and communicate that to players in a natural game, in a natural way for this kind of game where it's a MOBA with 20-minute matches. Like, we don't have a lot of opportunity to do storytelling within our game, but we can do it through like the way we release our skin packs and our comics and our themes and so on.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like her skill set and such? Like how are you intending for her to actually like fit into the gameplay style of the game? Like what niche is she looking to fill?
Yeah, absolutely. So she's a ranged assassin. She's definitely of like the mage archetype because a lot of her damage comes from her abilities. Her Q ability is Shadow Waltz, and this is, I think, kind of what defines her as a character. It's a short-range skill shot, and if you hit an enemy hero with it, it drastically lowers the cooldown of it, and your next move order will dash you in whatever direction you chose. So this is, what allows her to dance around like Vala we showed in that cinematic by landing this ability and repeatedly landing it. Chomp is her W. This is a short-range ability, but it does a ton of damage. She kind of takes a bite out of whoever it is. And then Dread is her E, which is a little bit of a longer range ability. This does a little bit of damage as it goes out and then explodes at the end and slows enemy heroes. And so with these abilities, right, the Shadow Waltz and Chomp are kind of close range. She has to be aggressive, kind of put herself in at harm's way, be vulnerable. Dread lets her play a little bit safer, so players have, they can be flexible. They can choose what the right situation is. And we kind of bring it all back together with her trait, which is Overflowing Chaos. So every time she does ability damage to an enemy hero, she's going to gain a stack of chaos. And every time she does a basic attack to an enemy hero, she'll consume all the stacks of chaos she has up to 3, does a bunch of bonus damage on her basic attack, and heals her. So even though we're kind of encouraging her to get in there, be aggressive, high mechanical skill, she's still got to figure out how to weave in basic attacks, and that's going to make her kind of tanky.
Okay, and then also like just even playing off of that, the Shadow Waltz, because you have the ability to dash, it's something that you can use almost as like an engage or an escape mechanism depending upon what direction that you want to go.
Yeah, it's Shadow Waltz. So we like to say like it gives her conditional mobility because you do have to land this. Enemy team can kind of dodge it and so on. So I don't know if it'll give her too much engage because the range is a little bit short on it. But Dread, her E ability, because it has that slow and that one's much longer range, that you can definitely use to engage. And Crushing Jaws, which is one of her heroics, has I'd say like a moderate cast range, and that's the one where it kind of pulls all the enemies to center, and that really sets up her other abilities. So she can definitely engage with those. Shadow Waltz, I'd say, is more like I can play keep away with you. So if you're a melee character, I can kind of dance around you and kind of control if I'm going to be aggressive or kind of run away a little bit.
And there, do you expect any? Have you been building her like in terms of any synergies with any type of compositions or to complement other heroes?
I think characters that can provide like reliable crowd control could definitely synergize well with her. Crushing Jaws is such a powerful heroic for her because it lets her set up and do like chomp and kind of all the abilities she wants to do. And her other heroic is Eternal Feast or Eternal Feast. This heroic basically hits endlessly as long as it connects with an enemy hero. So you can imagine if your ETC goes in and gets a mosh pit on the entire team, you're going to drop down this one heroic and, that's lights out for the team. So I think she's going to synergize pretty well with characters that can be aggressive with her, go in with her, but also offer some crowd control, and she'll really benefit from that.
Gotcha. So something that's already going to kind of push a team composition towards one area more so than another.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And then, of course, in that kind of reveal video was something that has been within the community itself, like really big and talked about for a while. Janitor Leoric. I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit about the history, like where this all started and everything, and why, like some people are like, oh, okay, cool, Leoric skin, and other people are like, oh my god, type thing.
Yeah, if you've been following Heroes or playing Heroes for a couple years, you're going to understand where all that passion is coming from. And Janitor Leoric, I mean, that one is near and dear to, I work on the content team and where we come up with and create these skins. And we've been following Janitor Leoric since it was introduced. I think it was as part of a one-year Heroes anniversary art contest, and it came from a Taiwanese player. And our community team fell in love with that, and they chose that as the winning submission. And of course, on the content side, we're always like looking like, oh, what did they come up with? They're like, oh, this is good. It's clever, it's charming. And we try to do this on skins all the time. Is like you try to think about, okay, what would fit the character, but then just as importantly, how would you translate those abilities into the skin? And he drew it all out, right?
Oh, yeah.
He had Janitor Leoric mopping, right, for Wraithwalk, and then of course the winner is the bathroom.
Yeah, bringing up the broken down bathroom and everything.
Yeah, that's Entomb. Yeah, that's exactly what Entomb should be on that skin. So we've kind of kept that in our back pocket forever, but we just never really found the right spot to release that skin. Because like, how do you all of a sudden just jump to Janitor Leoric? And when we were thinking about the content we wanted to create for this release for BlizzCon, one of the common themes we kept thinking about was like, well, this is a celebration of our community, of our fans. Why don't we give them something that they've always asked for forever? So if you look at a lot of the content that has come out for this release, Janitor Leoric, we have the Kevin Johnson Cloakin announcer, we have the 6.5 banner, I don't know if you've seen that. We have a couple of sprays and portraits. All of these are things that if you've been with us for many years, you're gonna get where that all comes from. And it's just really fun for us to finally bring that thing to life because we know that the players are gonna be excited about it. And I think it was like a month ago, we're just trolling through the forums and sure enough, there's Janitor Leoric being mentioned yet again, and we're like, okay, good. They still want him.
Still relevant.
Yeah, still relevant. Like 2 years later, like, okay, good. It's still relevant. And I mean, you saw the reaction from the opening ceremony, so we're like, okay, cool. We think it turned out really well, and we're really excited to finally get it in players' hands.
I can't wait to play it myself. I'm a big Diablo fan, so I play a lot of Leoric. I suck, but I play a lot of Leoric, and that's definitely going to be one that I'm going to add to the repertoire.
Yeah, it's a great skin. You should
and then, like, one of the final things was there was at the end of the video you teased a whole bunch of headlines, going through and coming. Is there any of those that you would like to focus on, or what we can expect with the next big balance update and what we can look forward to in 2019?
Yeah, so we're some of our gameplay updates I can speak to. Our focus for this year was trying to make matches closer, more competitive. We feel like the best Heroes of the Storm matches are the ones that are back and forth. It feels like both teams are in it. Every little decision that you're doing within the match has a meaningful impact on the outcome. And so we've kind of gone after that in two different ways. On the gameplay side, we've changed how players are earning experience in a match. So we found that destroying enemy structures, which usually you get because you win a map objective, so you're probably a little bit ahead because you won the map objective.
Yeah.
And then you go to push down a fort and you get further ahead, and it can kind of snowball you in some situations. So we pulled a lot of that experience out of structures. Now we felt like this made our games a lot closer right away internally. We did start seeing a little bit of feedback internally that, okay, well, what's my reward for actually, destroying a fort? Like, I'm not getting a lot out of that anymore. But keeps provide you with a catapult, and that feels great. So that's where we actually added catapults on destroying forts.
Oh.
You get a catapult every third minion wave once you've destroyed the fort in that lane, and then keeps bringing it back to what it is on live. And so that becomes more of like a strategic advantage instead of just being, I'm up 2 levels, I have more health than you, right? And like, you can't fight me kind of thing.
So it provides an advantage without it being like a straight in your face. Like you mentioned snowballing.
Yeah. We like to say it's strategic instead of just power, right? And so, and because it's every third minion wave, it kind of comes in waves. Like, there's moments of time where these things are going to be threatening, and you're going to have to think about, how you deal with them. But then there's other moments in time where you're on an even footing and you can still contest. On the system side, one of the big things we're doing to keep just kind of level up the quick match experience is a feature we're called the Nexus. And basically, this is going to make sure that matches have a tank, a healer, and a ranged assassin.
Okay.
And so if you play in these games, we've kind of we've designed and balanced the game around kind of more that Hero League or esports or Team League kind of team compositions where you have a more balanced team. And so oftentimes if you're playing a quick match game and you get, 3 specialists and 2 assassins, it just doesn't quite feel like Heroes of the Storm, right? That's not quite the game we're building.
It changes the dynamic a lot because it might be like you just, I have to steamroll them in the begining because by the time that Stitches can actually survive a team fight, then that's it, we're done.
Yep. Yeah. Or if you're a healer and you don't actually have any front line because we have a bunch of ranged assassins, that's not necessarily the experience you signed up for, right? So Call the Nexus is going to enforce this, and then we need roughly about 20% of our players to be playing tanks and healers in that case. We're close to that, so we're actually going to be, when we need like more healers in queue, we'll be actually offering like an experience incentive to queue up as a healer.
So almost kind of like the the what is it?
World of Warcraft?
World of Warcraft,
Yeah, like the Dungeon Finder type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. And if you're playing in a group, once you get up to a group size of 3 or more, then we're going to say, hey, you're a group of 3, you actually need to fill one of these roles. And I think that's pretty easy because Ranged Assassin is one of those. So, hey, just queue up as Orphea, right? And then you're fine. But if you queue up as group of 4, now you need to fill 2 of these roles. Group of 5, we don't care. You're with your friends.
You can decide.
Do whatever you want. We're not necessarily going to put, you want to play 5 Ranged Assassins. You might go up against a tank, a healer, and so on. But that was your decision, right? So both of these, the gameplay updates and this really focus on kind of leveling up the match experience, making games feel closer.
All right. And how successful do you feel the Fall of King's Crest was like as an event to try and I guess get more people playing and maybe experiencing a lot of things differently because it had a lot of branching paths that required you to play different styles in the game. And what do you see of maybe going with things like that going forward? Maybe adding a little bit more of the story into the game itself than having to go outside for the comics and other types of media.
Yeah, I mean, on the system design side, we feel that our events, whether it's the Echoes of Alterac or Nexomania or Fall of King's Crest, these are all really engaging events that players look forward to, and they want to play a lot of games and finish their quests and get unique content that you can't get elsewhere. And for King's Crest or the Fall of King's Crest, we definitely wanted to see kind of how far we could push, how many quests players had to complete. And overall, we're pretty happy with it. But like everything, we're kind of learning as we do it, and we're going to keep evolving how we do our event quests in the future. I don't know if you want to speak to any of the content.
So, I mean, if you go back to Nexomania, you actually start seeing just the evolution of how we want to bring out these events. You're starting to see like this cohesiveness between the type of content we're creating, and then it's being a lot more compelling with how the designers are then making these quests, and now you're choosing one quest or another quest, so now you're investing yourself in all the different loot that you can get. And it was really successful for us. We think that event did really well. It was had really good engagement, and what we saw with Fall of King's Crest, I think it actually did even better, and it was even more cohesive. And now we're bringing all this cool art to the front home screens, and now you can see where the quests go. And I think what you're going to see moving forward is like, okay, this is, I think, the right way to go for now. What's great about Heroes is we're constantly adapting, evolving, seeing what works, what people get excited about. Just wait till the next event. It's pretty fun idea that we have brewing up. And to be honest, we're already talking about the next 2 events past this. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So lot coming in the future then.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And change gears like just a little bit. Let's see. Sorry. I know that you probably don't have any of the hard numbers like right off the top of your head, but can you talk about maybe how the different types of game modes between like quick match, team league, brawls and stuff like that, how you kind of are noticing people like lining up in terms of popularity, or where you're seeing maybe more people drift to, and if that impacts any of your like design decisions or things that you approach the game.
Yeah, so right now, quick match is our most popular mode. That's where we see most players. We have a pretty active ranked player base, and the cool thing is when we did our Team League updates at the end of September, that did take some players out of Hero League and put them into Team League, but we also saw the like overall ranked population actually grew as a result of those Team League changes. So that was really cool because we always feel like Heroes of the Storm is best played. It's a team-based game, right? So playing with your friends, playing together is kind of the experience we want to chase more of and push the game in that direction. And then, there's players who only play versus AI. There's players who are really invested into brawls and so on. So there's a lot of different game modes that we want to support, and trying to, come up with changes that will impact all these players, or focusing on individual groups. So like Call the Nexus is purely for quick match, right? Because the other modes you're drafting. Yeah. Whereas, we're talking about a bunch of ranked play updates we want to do, like where we added solos and formats to Team League, and we're talking about potentially even combining Hero League and Team League next year into a single ranked mode. So we definitely look at all our game modes and see where players are, and like personally, I kind of go through all our game modes. Like I play a lot of ranked, but I'll do some unranked draft. I'll do some quick match. It just kind of depends on who I'm playing with, what kind of mood I'm in. And I think a lot of players are like that too.
All right. And when you mentioned like kind of merging the solo and team league, what type of issues or like challenges does that actually like bring to the table? Like in terms of like having the MMR and matchmaking system, about how you're actually going to group those different people with the skills, depending upon how they might play better in a group when they're with other people that they know versus how they might be able to adapt in a situation as a solo queue.
Yeah, totally. We're still discussing a lot of the details. So one thing we know, because we get a lot of feedback that, hey, I want to play Hero League and I don't want other people to have an unfair advantage and have parties and stuff. So we will offer an option where you can check a box saying, hey, in ranked, I only want to be paired with other solos. Your queues might be a little bit longer because there's probably other solos who are like, no, I don't mind playing with groups. Something we've seen with our recent changes to Team League, now that mode is a lot more vibrant, there's more players participating in there, is that players are actually able to like now find groups and almost make friends, because you might queue as a solo player and get matched with a party of 4 and you have a good game, and now you're joining their party, and it's an opportunity to just have a better match experience. So but yeah, we're talking about a lot of things actually. If you have a chance to go to the What's Next panel in like 30-ish minutes, Joe Pipor, our lead system designer, is going to go into a lot more detail about all that stuff.
Okay. And then one final question. We'll end on a bit of a fluffier one. But of course, we saw, alongside the Janitor Leoric, we saw a bit more of, what was that, the Raven Court High School. Anything that you guys have going on with that as far as coming up in the future?
In the future, or it's part of this particular pack?
Yeah.
So for this particular pack, we have Janitor Leoric, of course, and he's the janitor at this high school, Raven Crest High. And the launch skin for Orphea is actually also related to this skin as well. It's called Slacker Orphea, and just a little history on that one. We had a bunch of different ideas that we were exploring which is what we normally do. We try out a bunch of ideas, we show them to a bunch of folks, and see what people get excited about. And there are some cool ones. I don't want to speak to them because we might end up using them. But one of them was this slacker high school kid, and we're like, well, what if that skin was also in the same world as Janet Lee York, and then you throw it at the writers, or you throw it like folks like Kevin Johnson, who's one of the creative folks who kind of puts this all together, and they're like, yeah, and then they'll call it Raven Crest High, and then like, well, remember those other skins we did, which was the cheerleader Kerrigan,
Yep.
and that was for Heroes of the Dorm, I think like 2 years ago or something like that, and we had Striker Li Ming, which was, I kind of forget where that one was from, but it was like, I think it was Olympics or something. I think it was maybe Olympics. But anyway, it was a completely other place. We're like, well, those are probably at Raven Crest High School as well. So we created tints of those skins. And now, as you saw in the video, you can see them all posing together. And that's what's kind of fun about Heroes is you can kind of mash all these things together and create a world. And one of the questions we're asking ourselves is like, this is a different realm. Like, who's the realm lord of Raven Crest High? But we haven't really figured that out yet. Or maybe our writers know who it is. We just haven't asked them yet.
Yeah, it's really cool how you go through and kind of bring that all back together. It might be just like some one-off idea and you later find context for it.
Absolutely. That's how the Mecha Pack came along. You know what I mean? You start with one, you start with two, then it's like, actually, we have a world here. Let's go for it.
Yeah. And well, thank you very much for going through and spending some time with us here. And, thank you for turning in, and continue to check out BlizzPro for our continued coverage of BlizzCon 2018.
For more BlizzCon coverage, check us out at blizzpro.com, subscribe to us here on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at BlizzPro.